What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So, in this video, I want to talk about one of the unsung groups of the 1980s into the 1990s. They're not a household name anymore, but some of their songs were hit songs, and one of them was a huge hit back in 1987, 88, 89. Now, we're all familiar with Bill Withers, uh, great songwriter, great artist, great singer. His best days were the 1970s, 60s, into the 80s. He died last year at the age of 81. And his two signature songs, he had two signature songs. He had a lot of songs, but two of them were more popular than any other. One was Lovely Day, which is a song that will help to snap anybody out of depression. And the other was Lean on Me. That probably was his biggest hit, Lean on Me. But this particular group had a cover of that song that was released in 1987 that was so popular. It won several their album, of course, on the strength of that song, won Grammys. But this song was also featured in a movie of the same name, featuring starring Morgan Freeman, that came out in 1989. You might remember that song playing during the time when Morgan Freeman's character, Joe Clark, was looking at students take the test when it was showing that time period. But that song "Lean on Me" was a huge hit. Their cover of it, and the group I'm talking about is called Club Nouveau. Now, Club Nouveau really happened only by circumstance. They were not originally planned. It was only because of certain circumstances that the producer of that group decided to create them. And what happened was, I think the year before, if I'm not mistaken, the year before Lean on Me was released, he was the producer of another group called the Timex Social Club. And they had a hit that was released, I think it was 1986, called Rumors. Now, that was a very successful song. But the problem is that even though he was the creative force behind that song, Jay King lacked creative control. He did not have them under contract, and he did not have the rights to that song. And what often is the case when you have a hit song, they get offers, money, and the members of this group decided to sign with a more lucrative label, leaving Jay King in the dust. So Jay King was flummoxed and frustrated, and he decided to form his own group, this time with creative control. This group consisted of Jay King, Denzel Foster, Thomas McElroy, Samuel Prater, and Valerie Watson, and he named the group Club Nouveau, which is French for new group. The group was brought together in 1986 in Sacramento. Club Nouveau was a band known for their funk and disco tunes. As a new band, their career began with instant success. The group had four consecutive hits the first 2 years from their debut album, Life, Love, and Pain. Jealousy, which actually was a response to the song Rumors. Situation Number 9, and a cover of Lean on Me, originally by the person I just talked about, Bill Withers, and Why Do You Treat Me So Bad. The last two songs both climbed to hold the number 2 spot on the Billboard R&B charts. Their debut album garnered much praise and eventually garnered the certification of platinum. At the height of the group's popularity, however, Club Nouveau had a lot of tension amongst the members. Much so that was the tension that members McElroy, Prater, and Foster left the group, only to be replaced by David Agent and Kevin Irving, With different members, the band began to have a different musical taste and feel. Their next few albums were laced with an evolving social consciousness, but unfortunately were unpopular commercially. The next album, Listen to the Message, which was released in 1988, peaked at number 44 on the R&B charts. Their third studio album, Under a Nouveau Groove, released in 1989, was the last album to be released by Warner Brothers Records. After changing record labels, Club Nouveau suffered. A New Beginning, which is the group's 1992 album released under the record label Quality Music, only peaked at number 80 on the R&B charts. They became an afterthought. The 1995 album Everything is Black did not even chart. The group's final recordings for Tommy Boy were not successful, and the group subsequently disbanded for a time. However, later on, the group did reunite, and they are still active as of today. Now, Samuel Prater, who's the lead singer of the song Lean On Me by Club Nouveau, went on to have a solo career, and he released his only album, Living in Black Paradise, in 1990. And the album's biggest single was So You Like What You See. And the song had a music video that featured Tyra Banks. In 2004, the song So You Like What You See appeared on the very popular video game Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, playing on the game's radio station CSR 103.9. And in 2009, Samuel reunited with Club Nouveau and is still touring with them to this day. Another interesting thing to note is that Denzel Foster and Thomas McElroy, those individuals who had left the group, were the ones responsible for selecting Cindy Herron, Maxine Jones, and Don Robinson to be part of a girl group that would eventually be known as In Vogue. So, Club Nouveau may be an afterthought in the history of R&B, but when you think of their members and you think of this thing called the music industry, you see how all these guys are always linked to one another. If it wasn't for them leaving the group, maybe In Vogue never comes to be. They're the ones that discovered it. So things happen for a reason. They had their run, um, and they left a lot of great quality music for us. And they're together. They still tour today. Now, I don't know if they're making any new music. I don't think so. But they still tour, singing their signature songs, and I would imagine making some money, and that's good. So I just want to talk about Club Nouveau for a second. Another unsung R&B slash funk group that people have forgotten about, but they made some good quality music for a while between 1986 into the 1990s. And trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say about this group. And yeah, there is. There's one thing I forgot to mention. One of their songs, one of their songs from the first album was sampled by the Lunatics, and I believe it was "Why You Treat Me So Bad." "Why You Treat Me So Bad" was sampled by the hip hop group Lunatics on his hit single "I Got Five on It," and was also sampled by Puff Daddy on his number one R&B single "Satisfying." So that goes to show you, like, yeah, they're not a well-known name, but they make good music. So much so that other genres use their beats to make other hit songs. So that's how music is always related. You know, people who are younger may not realize that a song that they like is using a beat of another group that created this beat 30 years earlier, or they're making covers of songs that came out 40 years earlier. You know, so look, when I was a teenager, I thought P Diddy was the most talented nigga ever. Until I began to realize that he was the sample king. I began to realize that he was sampling 80% of the shit he was doing. So I started looking at him different. I'm like, well, okay, is he really this good? Is he really what everybody set him up to be if he can't create his own fucking melodies and beats? So that's all I'm saying, man. You know, gotta give these guys flowers while they're still here. So, and that salute to Club Nouveau.